Hi everyone, we're going to continue our Disney Infinity tutorial within the Detention block. Last week we showed you how to create the collapsing walls at the side of the prison cell. What I didn't show you though was how to finish the actual cell themselves that will have your prisoners captured. So we did the walls, but what we're going to look at here is these prison cells. We've got some buttons here, so when we shoot the doors, you shoot out, the prison door will open and we can go and rescue our individuals. Okay, and they'll be trapped in this particular side of the box. So this clip is showing you the second part of our detention block and how to make these doors. And when you've rescued your prisoners, we can either shut them in the place, or put them in here, or we can then shoot our collapsing walls at the side that we did in our first clip and jump to the garbage chute. So sit back and I'll show you how I put those doors together. Cheers. So we loaded up the toy box where we were last week, and as you said, this is the bit we did the corridor section with the collapsing walls. So we did the corridor part, and before we do another corridor, we need another set of steps that go into the prison cells. So just past this corridor there, as our guys come running in, we want to run through past the first corridor and then some steps going down to the first prison cells, and I want steps either side. And then after that I can repeat the corridor again and do as many corridors as I like per prison cell. So what I'm going to do here is just going to get my creative blocks up, and I'm just going to get the set to stairs, and we're going to just place this. So we're going to drop this, so the stairs will go down to the cell. Now because we've used one of the walls, I can't have it fit flush. It won't allow me to go flush, so I could just leave it set up and have a gap down the stairs. I could, but I'd like it to be right against the side there. I want it to be no gap at all, because I'm fussy. But you could say, well, if I left it like that, that would do the job. So you don't have to use the path creator. You could just leave the steps in and just have a gap down the sides. It'd make life a lot easier for you. But we always like it to push it a little bit harder. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our creativity toys, because we're going to use a path tool. And we're going to link these steps to the path tool, just like we did with the side walls, but it's not going to move. So let me get the right section. So I'm going to create a path tool here. Now obviously I'm going to have two sets of stairs, so I can move it across. So I want them on that section there, and I'm going to move it across. Not all the way across to the side. I want to make sure there's a gap, because remember I'm going to have a sliding door there. Place my path and then come out it, circle out. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. I move it across, come back a little bit. Right. So that's my path. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go into Spark mode, and I'm going to switch these paths off so the stairs aren't moving back and forth all over the place. They are stationary, they're fixed. So in Spark mode, go to Properties, and I'm going to switch off those items. Yep. And I'm going to come across, and I'm going to switch off those items. Okay, so they're done. Okay, so if you remember from last week's tutorial when we were doing the detention block, we had a button put in, and you can see the button through the corridor, whereas that when you press that button it reset and stopped all those tools. So when we put the bricks it will move them. So in this case you'll see these settings. You remember these paths that we did all those paths, they're linked to that button, and when we press that button it resets it. Now this button is to be deleted once our map is complete, so I'm going to still keep it here, so I didn't need to actually put that in, take it off, so I've kept that on. And what I'm going to do to this is, so when you press this button, any objects linked to this path, can you reset them and stop it? Alright, and do the same. Now the more objects you have in your toy box when you do this, they won't move until you do this button. So this button is needed at this particular point. But just to clarify that once the toy box is completely finished, then I will delete that button out. Okay, so we now have the button, we now have those items on there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create, like we did with the detention walls, we're going to get our parts out. So we're going to go down to our simple tool sections and look for our steps. I'm just going to move them to one side, because these are the objects I'm going to need and move into those areas. So let's grab the steps. Right, so we're going to have two this side. Right, and I need two the other side. Now one thing I forgot to do is we can't put the steps on straight away, because if I do, I won't be able to put the wall on the other side. It won't let me join the wall up. So it won't let me do that. So what I've got to do is I must make sure before I connect that to the tool, I'm just going to move that to one side because I got a bit carried away. I need the other wall in place. Yeah, so I need to have the other corridor wall in place. So what I'm going to do is going to get back my tools back up, and I'm going to choose on that box. So let me get the tools. I'm going to choose the pillar wall here. I need this in place, otherwise it won't be able to fit flush. Now I'm just going to move it down so it's level, okay, which we had it on that side of the box, those panels. Now that's our first stair, so we're going to move it back, and that's where the second stair. So I need that set up, and I'm going to put those there. Okay, so set that in. So that's our corridor section for the cell. And then when you finish this particular part, you can then repeat the first block, continuing from these walls as well. So you can then do your next corridor and your next set of stairs. Now we've got the walls set up, I can now put the steps in. And I'm going to link it to the path. And I'm going to drop them in. And like obviously drop on the screen, so I've got to position the steps in the right place. So the default step is there, so that's wrong. I need to move it down. And as it's at the bottom, you'll see the two boxes I'm going to have to move it down to. So let's play around with this. So we'll click on this setting, we go down to our properties. We're not worried about the movement, we're just looking at the position. And if you're not too sure where the position goes, you can try it, and if it goes wrong, you hit that button, it will reset in that particular part. Now we haven't given it any change of settings, so the item hasn't moved. So if we go into our properties, go down to our toy box path, and we now position this. So if you think it's in the right direction, we'll move it. So I want to go down on the path, so it's going to be a minus value, and I want to go across the horizontal and move it along. So I'm going to do 2, 2 on our particular setting. So let's just move that across. Okay. So they come out of here. All right. Shoot the actual item, get my gun back out. Right, you'll now notice, right, the steps have come backwards. That's not where I wanted them to go. Okay, so I've gone the wrong way direction then, and it's got to go lower down. So that was 2, it's got to go down 4. So what I'm going to do, back to my properties, toy properties. So in this case, when you do these steps and you set the path up, it is horizontal -4, vertical -4. Okay, now that's going to move it into the box on the centre of the screen. So when I go back into here, let's shoot this again. Right, the step now is in place, but it's in the middle. Now we could have just stuck that there like that before and left it. So if you don't want to do this, you can just put the step in and not even use the path tool. You could say it's just being too complicated for complicated sake. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move the offset because I want it fitting flush. So I'm going to move that 2. So it's going to go to the left 2 places. So let's go back and shoot it again. Oops. Right, and now that fits flush against the wall, which you couldn't have happen. So now I've got to do the other 4 steps in the same case. So let's click onto those items. And like I say, if you have that button on there, you can reposition objects and just keep pressing it and moving it into place and look at the settings. So highlight that property. We now know what it is. We can go to properties, toy box path. And on here we know it's now -4. We know it vertical is -4, but this time we want it to move slightly to the right, so therefore I'm going to do the other side 2. So go back, let's shoot the thing. Did I get it? Cool. And now perfectly I've got the steps of stairs. Now I like that type of look, and that's why I want it on the screen. So I'm happy with that group. Again, so we'll now do this on the other side. And it should be exactly the same. So block in there, highlight the block, properties, toy box path, -4. So horizontal -4, vertical -4, offset -2. And then the other side will be +2. Okay, so that's our other side, fitting flush. Now we get the other set of stairs. If I wanted to shoot too soon, I didn't change the settings. Must make sure I change the settings. Sometimes you get too carried away. So -4, -4, and this is the other way, so it's +2 this time. Right, so we now have our stairs in place, which is perfect. And there we go. our steps are there ready to work. We can now build our particular setting. All we've got to do now is we want the change the colour. So let's change the colour of these, so we'll do it at this particular stage. Now we can't do a theme all because it will now change all our blocks. So once you colour it in, tend to do your last thing, colour the whole lot of areas in and then just change the areas that we want. Now I obviously done the platform so you can see it, so I've now got to select each individual one. And the more pieces you get, the more annoying it can be. So that's now looking quite cool. Fitting in within our Death Star scenario. The good thing is once you pixel you can go through each one and set it. But if I did theme all, then the walkway that I've done will change as well. Right, and like I said, the first clip we did showed how we build the first shell, so this just continues where we left off here. So I've now changed the colour of all those. We've now got our first part in with the steps with our cell as you walk through. That now is quite good. And we're going to go down to our prison cells from our first block. Right, so prison cells. What we're going to do now is we're just going to get our toys back out. So let's just go back into our item. We're going to build these doors that are going to slide up and down. So just to get a rough idea where our cells are going to do. If I go back to our simple toys, I'm just going to get the rough layout of where our cell is. So let's go down to our basic shapes. So I'm just going to go and pick our basic shape here. I'm going to get the big flat panel here. So it's got a big square block. We're going to have our cell. So you come down and I fit it in flush. That is where our cell is going to be. So it's going to go just slightly around the corner, our box. So it's going to fit there. Yeah. So I'm just laying it out on the base here. That's where I want our block to appear. And then I'm going to just put vertical walls around it. So I'm going to use the brick sides, so the side panels, so then to put either box. And then when we do the other side, we're going to have 4 other cells on the other box. Okay, and then we're going to use these vertical walls around the side to block in our particular item. But what we are going to use is, because we've got a big door, one of these big pieces to move up and down between the box. Now if you look, it doesn't fit exactly centre. Now remember, you're not going to see all these bumps and sides, but that's roughly where I want the door to appear. But the centre of that is not the centre of the stairs. So I don't have to position the door in place. I'm going to put a door there that's going to slide up and down. And I'm going to set it on that screen. So that's where I want the door to appear for this particular prison cell. So guess what? I'm going to go back to my creativity toys. So I'm going to go back up to my filters, unfilter option. Get my creativity toys. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build the door to move completely out of the way. So that, if I put it there, it's going to be either side of the box. So I know I want it slightly back. So in this case, because the brick, the actual block is larger, I've actually moved it slightly in off this side, and I'm going to go straight up and go right to the very top so it clears all the walls. Now, I don't want it to go that high when I finish, but I need it there because once I finish the option, the door's going to be in the way and you're not going to allow to put those items where you want them. So I'm making sure that the door moves well away from all my other objects so I can go and build it. I'm doing it this way so I can show you also that you can adjust the path, even though when you've created it, you're not restricted to just doing this once. But that will become more clear as we go along. So I've got my panel door. Now this panel is going to be moving constantly, just like we did with the lift. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep going up and down. So let's go back to our simple shapes. Let's go across to our wall again. And we'll just for the time's sake, we'll only do the one cell, but you'll just repeat the exact same process on the other side. So we're going to do our cell here, and that cell is going to go in that particular block. Okay, so I'm just going to move it to one side. Again, we've got the space for it, it's not in the way. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to link it to that path tool. So I'm going to get my wand back out, and I'm going to link it to that tool. Because I've made the space, I can do it from this side. So I can go into there, new path connection, link it to that, and do the toy box path. So the door now goes straight up at the side. Yep, which is quite good. And I'm going to highlight the door, go to toy properties, and I'm going to make sure the door goes up and down. Yeah, I want it to go back and forth so we can move the door up and move down, just like we can do with the lift. There's some of you have probably already worked. If you've seen my lift clips, then you'll have seen that this works exactly the same way, but we want the door to go up and down, and it fits flush to one side. Now, don't worry that it goes either side, because you're not going to see those gaps. You're not going to see the other panel because we've blocked it in. So remember, just because you can see it now, you won't see it on the actual list. So what we need is, we need two particular items. So if we go back to my creativity toys, we need 2 logic gates. Okay, so we'll go back to our logic gates. So there's our logic gates. So we'll have 2 of these. One is going to stop the gates and the other one is going to start the gates. So like I mentioned in the lift tool, what we need to do now is these points on the path tool, when our object reaches the individual points, and that's why we only put 2, I would like it to send a signal to those logic gates. So I'm going to go to our little section here, square button, and let's go new logic connection. Now you always think you've got more, but there's a drop down list, so we're going to further down and we're going to say when the point reaches the path. So when it reaches the path, can we send a signal into that gate? Simple as that. So input a signal. Okay, that's our first one, and obviously we need the other part of the door, so we're going to this section here. When we get to that point, so right click, new logic connection, and when we reach that point, we send a path to that signal. Okay, now this always works, yet sometimes when you build it, it might not. Now that sounds weird, the logic is correct. So what we're going to do now is that when we do an output from that logic, yeah, it will now turn that item off. Now when I'm saying that this will work, if you set this up exactly this way and the door only stops at one particular point, then what you need to do is you need to save it and come back to it, and then you'll find that the logic will work correctly. So we're going to do the last one now. When we send an output from that logic gate, I'd like you to turn the thing back on again and it'll start moving. So that's the switch it back on and go back off. So the only thing I now need is a button to trigger that logic gate. So let's go across, and we're going to use a slightly different button this time. We use the round one. But like I'm saying is, if you do this exactly this way and you test it and the door just keeps going up and down, save your toy box, reload it, and I guarantee you it will work. Sometimes it just won't do it the time you create it. In this case, it looks like it has worked, so it's quite good on this part. So I'm going to put the button in there. You'll see it's red at this particular case, so it's going to go there at the very top. Right, so now what I'm going to do here is when we shoot that button, yep, so we shoot that button there, so we can say, right, new logic connection. When we hit this, right, can we send a signal into this gate, because we've said on output that gate, can we switch the item back on? And that should sort that out. So if we now shoot that, as you'll see the door opens up, it reaches the point and it stopped. Excellent. Now you may look, well that's a bit pants, Simon, I've got the door floating, I've got the button floating in the air. Well that's not the case, because we're going to bring the door further down. But what we are going to do now I've got the door out the way, I can now finish building my walls. So I'm now actually going to build the rest of the prison cell. So let's go across. I get the big walls. I'm now going to move, because the prison wall is actually out the way, so I can now, like I mentioned, I've moved it in the box. It's not, you can't put them through the two, it won't let you if the door was in the way, but now it's out the way, I can finish off building the cell. So I now can put the walls up. So I'll fit those in. Again, they have different angles when you twist them around to how you fit them flush. So I'm going to fit that one there. So you can twist them around depending on where you want them to appear. And then I can turn those back, and that's our back wall. Right, now I left this little panel in the gap there, and I could use a thin panel if I wanted to, but I don't want to use a thin panel, I want to give it some light. So what I'm going to do now, I'll go back to my Death Star, I want that, and I've set that panel so it can go there on the screen, and that's why I had to twist that wall the right way around. If I had it the other way around, I wouldn't have been able to fit the panel to it. So that now is our prison cell set up and working. But like you say, the door and the floating button doesn't look too good. Yeah. So what we're going to do here is we shoot that. That's great. That all moves down, and that fits our cell quite nicely. And we can walk in, and there is our prison. So that's our box section that we've done on our screen. Now what we're going to do now is, didn't mean to go to that particular option. What I want to do is I want to bring the path down. I want to lower the gate. So I'm just going to click on that option. I'm going to click on this point, and I'm now going to lower the door. So even though I've created it, I can bring it down. So the door, I want it a little bit low on the screen, so I'm going to bring it to there. Now I've set it, and you'll see here the line still goes up, and it should have moved everything down. This is where you now go, it hasn't worked, but you will then save it. So I'm going to do a quick save here. So I'm going to save my toy box. A little bit of editing will jump me back and forth. So I've now saved the toy box. So when I load it back up and I now shoot it, okay, because I moved that box back, when I shoot the actual item, it will now stop at that point, and my button is now in the right place, which I see on the screen. So I don't have to go for the full giant door. It depends on what creature you can have in it. If it's a quite large creature, you obviously need the door to be large enough to fit it. But you can adjust your paths once you've done them, but they just look like they don't work. So saving it and reloading it up will rectify that issue. And what we can do now is we can fill these items in. So let's now colour the door in. Now in the beginning clip I showed you the button at the front panel at the side. I've got it above the door. You can place it by the way the button where you want it on the screen, but I'm going to use the door to be this option. Yeah, the Death Star floor grate. I find the Hoth one better for the floor, but that's my door on the screen, right? And then what I'm here to do is I can change that one. I can go back. So I go across, and that's the Echo floor. That's the flooring like we've got here. So we've got the floor in the side, and then we can do our walls. And we'll do the dark walls to fit in with the rest of it. So go back to that one and use the Death Star tiles. Oh, I use Death Star conduit, whatever that says. I quite like those bricks instead. Okay. Oops, can't get out. Right, so we've now got our prison cell. So I'm now going to shut the cell so it now fits flush. And everything's on the screen, so now I can put the roof to it. So go back to my bricks, because I've reloaded it up, I've got to go back to my toys again. So I get to my flat panel here, move it all the way across. Now although you've got the side, chunky bit at the side, remember you're not going to see that because you're going to build another corridor now against the side. So what we do is we can stick that there on the top of it, so we've got the door. So that now fits perfectly across. So I'm going to place that there. I'm going to move these all the way going across the box. I don't mind the overlap. Okay, so that is our prison cell with our doors, and all I've got to do is format it. So you now starts coming together, the cell comes together. But remember, the outside is not going to be seen when you're playing it, so it doesn't matter that the door panel is a giant chunk at the side of it. So they're not going to notice that. I probably can't reach that from here, so I'll probably go into Spark mode. Go in Spark mode, come up, and change the mode here now into the tile at the top, so I've now got the roof. So I now need to repeat that process for the other side, and it's exactly the same. So again, I come out, but it looks weird with the chunk stuck out that particular option, so let's just come out of this particular setting here. What I can do is these logic gates are done. I can move those out of the way so you don't see them, so let's push those up and let's push them up on the roof because we don't expect anyone to see these items. So that's the first one. Let's move this one out of the way, and let's move this one up here. We put that one down. Okay, but like I'm saying is you're not going to see all those panels because we'll then do another corridor down the side, so we'll just repeat the first clip that I showed you last week. So what we can do is we can just finish off the formatting a bit. Let's make this whole thing, instead of a green area, let's make the whole lot Death Star. So let's get our one back out again. Let's change that there to the Death Star tile. Yeah, will appear on space station. And what we can do now, so now it's looking a lot more like a detention block. The clouds don't help, we probably need to put a space background in, but we can now fill in the areas so you don't see our mess. So if we go back to our building blocks, we can chuck that in, and it just, again, now looks formatted. You'll hide all the elements that stack out the side. Right, so that really is our clip, and we just need to repeat now the other objects on the other side. So what I'm going to do now on my next clip is show you how to make a trash compactor. Okay, there are trash compactor tools that you can unlock using the takeover, but if you haven't got that, we're going to show you how to do collapsing walls. A couple of you actually asked also to how to do Syndrome's wall, you know, where the wall with lava appears. So the clip that I'm going to do next, theoretically, could be used for both cases. Could be used for a trash compactor, or can be used for Syndrome's wall of fire. And I'll show you different ways of doing collapsing walls. But we need to place that underneath our camp. So we'll do 2 sets, and that'll be my next clip. So that'll be our part 3 to this detention block. But if you'll notice here now, I'm just putting some blocks to hide the fact that I've got this item, so you don't see the doors. I'm just going to now build this all over the top of it, so you won't see all the chunky mess at the top. So we can put this across on the screen, and I can set my blocks going across. So I'm unlocking it, so when you're playing it, you just get to see the dark. You don't see the section you've got. You will fill in all those spaces. So from the outside, it will look like your Death Star block. You're not going to see the parts to it. So that's just the point on there. But we've now got our collapsing walls. Yeah. We've now got our prison cell. So we walk through our corridor. We see our prison cell, and we hit that door and we shoot it. So all you need to do now is repeat stage 1 and build on from the end of this clip. So do the corridor again, and then do the other set of doors for the cell, and do how many you want. You can just leave it as that and just have the 1 set of doors, because like I say, it takes quite a lot to do, so you could then fill that item in and have your prison cell in that particular part. I hope you found this clip more easy. A couple of you have asked me to break these clips up, so I'm hoping this is helping. Thanks for watching, and I'll post you the other clip on how to do the trash compactor. Cheers for listening, guys, and thanks for all the support.